Mike knew something was wrong the moment his tires rolled over the town line. The air didn't feel right. It was too still, too quiet. The trees didn't rustle, the birds weren't singing, and the sun seemed to flicker behind a thick haze like it was second-guessing itself. He tapped the radio. Static, then again, more static. Of course, he muttered, twisting the dial like it would fix anything in Ghoul's Rest. The cracked welcome sign flashed by. Welcome to Ghoul's Rest. Established 1824. A safe place to raise a family. Someone had spray painted an X over the word safe. He smiled grimly. Still got jokes. Mike Hartley was home for the summer. 20, sarcastic, a little tired, a little jaded, but beneath that, a loyal, sharp-eyed kid who loved horror movies, books on cryptids, and his cat Lurker more than most people. He hadn't even pulled into his driveway yet, and already his stomach was tight. His town, his weird little eerie town, felt off, like it was hiding something. He turned down Cypress Lane, the cracked pavement winding through overgrown yards and shuttered windows. His childhood house stood crooked under the weight of years and vines, porch light flickering weakly like it didn't want to try anymore. But she was there, curled up on the porch like a shadow, his cat. "Hey, Lurker," he called softly, cutting the engine. She lifted her head slowly, eyes glowing faintly, too faintly, like fire behind smoked glass. She blinked once, then twice, and then Mike felt it, something watching him from the trees. He turned, squinting. Nothing. Just silence. But his pulse was already picking up. He barely made it inside when Gemma banged on the door, boots stomping like she owned the planet. "Mike," she called through the screen, voice breathless. He opened it fast. "Jesus, Gem, you trying to give me a heart attack?" She didn't laugh. Her face was pale. Her tattooed arms were tense. "You haven't seen the news?" "No." "Something's wrong. People are disappearing. Jacob Harlan, gone. Like, house trashed. Blood on the ceiling. Sheriff says it's a bear." Mike snorted. "A bear? What, like Yogi went rogue?" "I'm serious." "I know." He paused. "You scared?" "More than that. I think we're being hunted." By the end of the week, 5 people were missing, one found dead, sort of. Mike and Gemma stood over the body in the woods behind Miller's diner. It wasn't human anymore. The skin was too gray, the teeth were wrong, and its eyes were open. Even dead, it watched them. Atlas and Imogen arrived that night. Their reunion should have felt warm, nostalgic. Instead, it felt like loading bullets into a gun before knowing which direction to point it. The 4 sat in Mike's basement. Lurker perched on the windowsill like a sentinel. Gemma spoke first. "They're not just zombies." Atlas nodded. "Or vampires." Imogen whispered, "There's something worse." Mike said nothing, but deep in his gut, he already knew. The town began to die quietly. Lights flickered out, phones stopped working, people changed, neighbors smiled with too many teeth. Children stood on lawns at 3 a.m. with glassy eyes, and every night the air buzzed with a low growl, too low to hear unless you were really listening. They were blending in, the hybrids, smart, fast, hungry. Some still looked like people, but they weren't. Mike's dreams turned bloody. Lurker would sit on his chest at night, eyes glowing bright enough to light the room, as if guarding him from something. They started to fight back, first with knives, then with fire. But nothing killed them. Until Lurker did. The hybrids didn't come in like a storm, they crept in like a lie. At first, it was just the little things. Dogs went missing, flickering streetlights blinked in rhythmic patterns, like they were communicating, and some of the townspeople, they just weren't acting right. Mike noticed it the most at the diner. He and Gemma sat in their usual booth by the window, vinyl seats torn from decades of teens carving hearts and initials with pocket knives. Outside, the sun was setting in that weird molasses way it only did in Ghoul's Rest, slow and sticky, like it didn't want to go down. Inside, the waitress poured them coffee. She smiled. Too wide, too long, too still. "You kids staying out of trouble?" she asked, her voice syrupy and wrong, like a doll pretending to be human. Gemma didn't answer. Mike gave a tight nod. They both watched her walk away, stiff like her joints were learning how to move. Gemma leaned in. She was at Jacob's memorial yesterday, crying. Now she's got that Stepford smile like nothing happened. Mike stared into his coffee. They're hiding in plain sight. Outside, a boy rode past on his bike. His shadow stretched unnaturally long across the pavement. Too long. It curved at the end like claws. Later that night, the group gathered in Imogen's garage. The fluorescent light above buzzed like it was suffocating. Old movie posters flaked from the walls. The Thing, The Lost Boys, Fright Night, real horror, fictional horror. What they were facing now, something worse. Gemma spoke while pacing. They mimic. That's why no one's sounding the alarms. They're not invading. They're replacing. Like invasion of the body snatchers, Imogen whispered. Atlas rubbed his face, sweat glistening even though it wasn't hot. I saw one today, at the gas station. Mr. Tucker, his reflection didn't match his body. His hands moved first, like it was 2 seconds off. Imogen went pale. You're sure? Mike nodded. They're not human anymore. Gemma exhaled. Then we need to stop pretending this is normal. We need weapons. We need plans. Lurker sat in the corner, licking her paw, then suddenly froze. Her head snapped toward the garage window. Her body went rigid. Everyone followed her gaze. Outside, the night was darker than it should have been. Too quiet. And then a knock. 3 sharp raps. Mike moved slow, heart thudding. He peeked out the window. No one. Then something whispered through the cracks in the wood right behind his ear. We know what you are. He spun nothing. Gemma was already grabbing the crowbar off the wall. Atlas flicked open his pocket knife. Imogen lit a candle. She always said it helped her focus. Mike stood in the center, jaw clenched. We fight now, he said. We don't wait until we're next. That night they followed the sounds. Low groans from behind shuttered buildings, something dragging its limbs behind the church, scratching inside the locked tool shed by the high school. The 4 moved like soldiers, flashlights scanning, weapons tight in their fists. They found a man on the edge of the cornfield, naked, covered in blood, standing completely still. Gemma whispered, "Sir, are you?" He turned. His eyes were pitch black, no pupils, no whites, just void. He grinned, and his mouth split wide, tearing at the corners like something inside was stretching outward. He didn't speak. He ran. Straight at them. Mike tackled him without thinking. The man's body bent wrong, like a spider folding itself. They all fought, grunting, screaming, metal clanging against flesh. Until Lurker leapt from the shadows, hissing like fire, and scratched straight across the thing's face. It shrieked. Not human, not animal, something else. The thing smoked where Lurker touched it. It flailed, screaming, and bolted into the night. Silence again. They stood shaking in the field, breath fogging, adrenaline thrumming like drums in their ears. Atlas broke it. Did your cat just... She's not just a cat, Mike whispered, eyes still locked on the horizon. Gemma swallowed hard. Whatever she is, we need her. Imogen looked toward the town. The lights flickered like a heartbeat. Because this was just one, she said. Mike's jaw clenched. There's more. And the worst part? They were still wearing faces the town knew. The plan was simple. Scout the town for supplies. Stick together, don't split up. But of course they split up. Just for 10 minutes, Gemma had said, pushing her way down Main Street toward the boarded-up tattoo parlor. I need to grab my sketchbook and my baseball bat. Mike didn't argue. He trusted her. That left him, Atlas, and Imogen heading toward the strip of abandoned shops just past the pharmacy. Most had been dead for years. Thrift stores, radio repair, a VHS rental store with a crumbling sign that still read, Video to go, horror aisle in the back. The windows were blacked out with faded posters, Hellraiser, The Fog, The Howling. A mannequin hand poked from behind a cracked pane, holding a melted tub of plastic popcorn. Mike stopped. I used to come here every Friday night, he said, voice low. I'd rent 5 horror movies and scare myself stupid while Lurker watched from the couch. Atlas smirked. Explains a lot. Imogen was already pushing open the glass door. Come on, maybe there's something useful inside. Inside, the air smelled like rot and melted carpet. Dust swirled in the beam of their flashlight like something alive. Rows of VHS tapes leaned like crooked teeth. Creepshow, The Thing, Return of the Living Dead, each spine warped, sticky, covered in grime. Imogen clicked on the store's main light. The neon flickered to life in sputtering pink and green. The aisles lit up like a horror movie dreamscape. Posters curled on the walls. A cardboard cutout of Freddy Krueger stood in the corner, glove outstretched. Mike ran a hand across the shelves, trailing fingertips over boxes. He whispered, "This place hasn't changed at all." Atlas pointed to the horror aisle. Back there might be a weapon or... A scream. Imogen. She was gone. They turned just in time to see the cutout of Freddy move. No, something behind it moved. Fast. It launched from the darkness, a hybrid disguised in old clothes, gray skin stretched like film across muscle. Its jaw unhinged, revealing rows of black, wet teeth. Blood dripped from its chin. Mike tackled it before it reached Atlas, slamming it into a wall of old Friday the 13th tapes. Cassettes exploded across the floor like confetti. Imogen emerged from the shadows, flashlight swinging wildly. Move! She hurled a full can of soda at its skull. It hissed, recoiling, but not for long. It was smart. It grabbed Mike by the neck and spoke, in a voice that wasn't human. You're not leaving this town. Mike gasped, struggling against it. Its skin felt ice cold. Its face began to change, eyes melting, cheekbones shifting, mimicking his. It was trying to become him before it could finish. A blur of fur and flame. Lurker. She launched from the counter, a yowling streak of fury, claws igniting on contact. She raked across its chest, and the creature let out a high-pitched shriek that shattered the glass of the old candy display. The hybrid twisted violently, smoking from the wounds. It turned, ran, crashed through the exit door in a howl of fury, and fled into the night. The store fell silent again. VHS boxes smoldered. One TV near the register blinked on, snowy static. Then, a single frame, a paused image on the screen, a still shot of Mike sleeping in bed, the camera inside his house. Mike turned white. "That's my room," he whispered. "That's from last night." Outside, the sky was red. The power lines buzzed with unnatural electricity. And in the distance, someone was laughing. Not one person, not two. Hundreds. All mimicking each other over and over, the same eerie laugh. The morning after the video store attack, the town looked almost normal, too normal. Sprinklers clicked in perfect unison. American flags fluttered on every porch, and the sky above Ghoul's Rest was blue, not blood red like the night before, not clouded, just blue. Mike stood in his front yard, gripping a crowbar, staring at a jogger across the street. The man smiled and waved. Sweat glistened on his arms. Then Mike noticed. No footprints in the dewy grass. The jogger's feet weren't even touching the ground. Back inside, Gemma slammed her palm against the map spread across Mike's dining room table. "All the attacks," she said. "They're circling something. Look, see the pattern?" Atlas and Imogen leaned in. Every red marker on the map surrounded the oldest building in town, the Seabright Sanitarium. "Isn't that place abandoned?" Atlas asked. "Since '79, Gemma said. "My uncle said it was condemned after a patient uprising. No records, no survivors. They sealed it up, pretended it never happened." Mike stared at it. He felt it in his chest, a thrum, like his heart recognized something before his brain did. "It's the center," he said. "It's where this started." Lurker jumped onto the table, scattering pushpins, and that's when they noticed it. Every pin Lurker knocked away disappeared. The group headed out. The town didn't try to stop them, not yet, but it watched. Eyes behind curtains, grins held too long by mailmen, children standing perfectly still in sandboxes, not blinking. It wasn't a town anymore. It was a stage, and something had written a script for their deaths. The Seabright Sanitarium sat on the edge of town, like a secret no one wanted to remember. Tall, iron gates wrapped in rust, windows shattered, nature trying to reclaim it, but losing. Inside, the air was heavy and wet, like breathing through someone else's lungs. The hallways were lined with peeling wallpaper and old restraints. Wheelchairs sat empty, turned the wrong way, and every mirror smashed. They found it in the basement, a room of VHS tapes stacked like altars, labels scratched off, some tapes melted together. One was still in a player, powered by a generator somehow still humming. They pressed play. The screen flickered. It showed a surgical room, men in lab coats, a patient strapped to a gurney. He was screaming, but not in fear. He was laughing. "Hybrid subject, patient 001, a voice on the tape said. "Turned after 3 transfusions. Still resists light. Does not decay. Increased intelligence. Mutation in progress." The screen glitched. Then, the patient sat up, looked at the camera. "You think you're watching me," he said, voice calm. "I'm watching you." The screen went black. Suddenly, Boom. A crash upstairs. Footsteps. Fast. They were inside. Mike grabbed Lurker, who was growling. No. Vibrating. Gemma whispered, "We've got company." The group bolted through the basement door, racing through side corridors, ducking under broken lights and dripping pipes. Every step echoed like gunfire. Atlas turned a corner, froze. A man was waiting there. Tall, grinning, face melting, morphing, twisting. Into Atlas. It lunged. Mike tackled it. They fought in the dark. And then Atlas's reflection didn't match his body. Imogen screamed, "Mike, that's not Atlas." But which one? Two of them now. Same voice, same screams. Gemma made the call, smashed a pipe loose from the wall, and cracked one across the face. It sizzled, smoke pouring from its mouth. The fake Atlas melted, crawling backward like a crab before convulsing and bursting into black ash. The real Atlas dropped to his knees, trembling. "They're copying us," he whispered. "They're getting closer." Back at Mike's house, the group barely spoke. Everyone was shaking, except for Lurker. She sat at the center of the room, tail flicking, eyes glowing with unnatural gold. "She's not a regular cat," Imogen whispered. "Mike, what is she?" "I don't know," he said. "I found her as a kitten, alone, in the cemetery. Thought she was a stray." "She's not," Gemma said. Lurker turned to them slowly, like she understood. Mike stared at her. "You knew this was coming." Lurker blinked once, and then she opened her mouth, not to meow, to speak. "Not yet," she said, voice like wind through a graveyard. "But soon." They tried to leave Ghoul's rest. They really did. Mike gripped the wheel of his car until his knuckles ached. Atlas sat shotgun, map in his lap, Gemma and Imogen in the back, silent. Lurker curled on the dash like a sentry, tail twitching. They made it exactly 3.4 miles. That's when the fog hit. Not a natural fog, not weather. It came from the ground up, thick and slow, swallowing the road behind them like something alive. The headlights dimmed. The engine stalled. The radio screeched with static. Then a voice. "You don't belong out there anymore." They walked back in silence. The town was waiting, and it was grinning. Back at Mike's house, things began to crack. Atlas barely spoke. He just kept rubbing at his arm, scratching. "Something's under my skin," he mumbled. "I can feel it crawling." Imogen watched him from across the room, eyes wide with dread. "Don't say that." Mike stared out the window. Across the street, an elderly woman stood perfectly still on her porch. Every time he blinked, she was closer. By nightfall, the power went out. The town plunged into blackness. Candles flickered. Lurker growled at the walls, and Gemma whispered the thing they'd all been avoiding. "We don't know who's real anymore." Later, they found the letter, tucked inside one of the old VHS cases Gemma grabbed from the sanitarium. It was handwritten, shaky, scrawled in red ink. They made the first one beneath the town, before the town had a name, before it had a church, before the bones were buried. It fed on blood, it fed on memory. They called it the sleeper. It's waking up. That night, Imogen screamed in her sleep. Mike woke up to find her standing in the hallway, eyes open, but wrong, wide, empty. She whispered, "He's underneath us." and collapsed. The next morning, they dug, out behind the cemetery, where the map showed nothing. But Lurker led them there, slow, steady, tail low, ears flattened like she knew. They clawed through soil, bones, old wood. And then they found it. A trapdoor, rusty, old, buried under layers of time and silence. Gemma whispered, "Who builds something like this under a graveyard?" Mike answered, "Someone who wants to hide a god." They opened it. The stairs creaked downward, swallowed by darkness. Walls were covered in symbols, claw marks, and blood. The deeper they went, the colder it got. Not just physical cold, soul cold. Like the air had died long ago and stayed dead. They reached the chamber and froze. In the center, a pit, black and pulsing like it was breathing, and around the pit, dozens of bodies hanging by the ankles, mouths sewn shut. Some were still twitching. Atlas turned to vomit, then the voice returned, low, whispery, wet. "You brought her here." The pit moved, shapes unfolded inside it, something huge, wings, teeth, a face that had too many faces, a thing made of all the townspeople it had consumed and copied. And it was looking at Lurker. The cat stepped forward, and then she rose, not walked, not jumped. Floated. Her fur shimmered like oil, flickering between black and glowing gold. Her eyes burned like twin suns. Imogen gasped, "What is she?" Lurker spoke, not in words, but in their minds. "I was born to guard this, but it's broken free." Mike's voice cracked. "Can you stop it?" "No. But I can buy you time." And with that, Lurker leapt into the pit. There was a sound like the world cracking open. Light poured upward. The chamber shook. The bodies screamed, and the pit exploded in a column of ash, bone, and black blood. When it cleared, the pit was gone. The bodies were gone. Lurker was gone, but so was the thing. For now. They made it back to town by sunrise. The fog lifted. The townspeople were asleep, peaceful, normal again. Too normal. But Mike knew better. As he stood on his porch staring at the horizon, something in his chest pulled tight. The sky shimmered faintly purple. Gemma stepped beside him. "Think it's over?" He didn't answer. Behind them, Lurker's empty collar rested on the windowsill. Then, the wind stirred it. It jingled once, and Mike smiled, just barely. "She's not gone," he said. "She's hunting." 2 weeks passed, no more disappearances, no screams in the night, no static voices, no fog. Just silence. Ghoul's Rest looked like itself again, sort of. Lawnmowers buzzed, children played hopscotch. The mayor gave a speech about resilience and rebuilding, but beneath the smiles and porch swings, no one was the same. Mike sat in Gemma's tattoo parlor, staring at the wall of flash designs. "You're sure you want to do this?" she asked, arms crossed. He nodded. "I want her with me." She picked up the needle and inked a tiny cat silhouette with glowing eyes above his heart. Lurker, his protector, his best friend, his weapon. Atlas was different now too. He stopped sleeping, said the dreams felt watched. Imogen had started researching the town's founding. She found no records before 1842, even though everyone knew the town existed long before that. They were all searching, waiting, hunting. By the third week, they started finding the signs again. Just little things. A tooth too sharp found on the diner floor, claw marks on a bathroom mirror on the inside, a baby monitor catching whispering in a long-dead language. It was happening again. Gemma was the first to say it aloud. "We need to fight this, all of it, whatever's still out there, whatever's coming next." Mike nodded. No more hiding, no more waiting to be picked off. Atlas pulled out a duffel bag. Inside, knives, flares, UV lights, homemade stakes. Imogen added maps, a journal, and a police scanner. "We make a circle," she said. "We map patterns. We follow signs. We cut them off before they rise." "And what do we call ourselves?" Atlas asked, trying to smile. Gemma answered for them all. "The last one's awake." The nights grew colder. The purple shimmer returned to the sky, barely visible, like bruising on the stars. The town didn't notice, but they did. Mike and the group began tracking, watching, listening, their instincts sharpened. They started noticing the people who blinked too little, the way certain shadows lagged behind their owners. And sometimes, in the middle of the night, Mike swore he could hear purring in his room. Low, protective, familiar. Then it happened. They got a call over the scanner, something moving through the cornfields at the edge of town. Fast, tall, inhuman. They loaded the car, packed their gear. Mike climbed into the driver's seat, crowbar resting across his knees. Before he turned the key, Gemma asked, "What if it's not a hybrid?" Mike looked at her, looked at all of them, then out the windshield, where the horizon shimmered faintly purple. "It doesn't matter," he said. "We hunt it anyway." 2 weeks later, somewhere, far from Graveridge, under the glow of a broken moon, Lurker walked alone. Silent paw steps padded along an empty highway. No cars, no people, just wind. Her golden eyes glowed through the mist. Behind her, the body of something unnatural lay still, its twisted limbs curling in on themselves, hissing softly before dissolving into ash. Another monster. Another secret buried. She kept walking. The road hummed under her feet, a soft vibration only she could feel. Something stirred ahead, faint, distant, but dark. But so was she. She paused on a hilltop, below in the valley of fog and power lines. Ghoul's Rest. Her home. Her boy. Mike. She blinked once, slow and deliberate. "I'm coming back," she thought, not in words, but something older, older than the hybrids, older than the pit. She wasn't done hunting, not yet. She disappeared into the shadows. And this time, the darkness followed her.